All right, so maybe we'll just get started. Uh, so Theodora, you've been really busy. I got your clip. Can you see this playing right now, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you've seen this one, guys, but Theodora's been working on this kind of monster animation shot, and so Theodora's added these amazing sort of lightning effects to kind of describe the monster's face at the end. It's like, I guess, like a big reveal, if you may, if you will. And I think it's working
A
really well.
lot of hours of texturing.
Yeah, I could see that you've really pulled out some really nice detail there. Yeah, I think it's looking great. Um, the lightning's definitely using that as a device to kind of light the monster's face at the end. It's working really well. And I see you've added some extra
Yeah,
light,
right in there.
some lightning um, at the beginning there to sort of describe those thorny, um, the thorny spines and the horns. And you've added some warm underlight on the underside, just kind of separate him from the buildings, which is working really well. I guess my only comment would be that in between, the monster getting these lightning flashes at the start and at the end, is that there is a moment where, even though the silhouette is working really well, he does feel like he's getting a little bit lost just here, right before the lightning flashes. So these two, I was looking at these two frames and wondering whether you could maybe contrive a few more of those really nice lightning flashes onto.
Sort of like at the top in the spikes area.
Exactly, yeah. So let me get my, so here,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'd say that, just to kind of remind the audience of kind of the menace, the horns,
Sure.
the kind of the danger, I guess. Otherwise, when you get to hear it's fantastic. There's a real intensity there that I really love. So it's really working well. Yeah. So here, and then yeah,
I love
a
the
little,
teeth. They're just like gnarly and
yeah. They really show up. Hey, with the, yeah, right there. So it's just touched. I don't know with this texture, but it feels a touch noisy.
Oh, it's very noisy right now. This render is just one to be able to see this.
Yep, yep.
But there's a lot of specularity because there's when a full render goes out of that, you can tell better, but that's blood on the teeth, and so there's this specularity from like the wetness and liquidiness,
Okay.
and yeah, so it needs a few more samples
Yep.
to not be as noisy. The lamps in this beginning part are also really noisy. That's one of the things that tends to be noisy with this too in this shot. So.
Gotcha. Maybe the foreground buildings could go a tad darker too, just so you sort of you do get that separation.
Mm-hmm.
Separation of reading from the buildings to the monster.
Yeah, I could even
So,
kill a couple of these lights entirely in the front.
yep, definitely. It could definitely go
Although
darker.
I spent the time to make the candles flicker, but
Oh, that's a nice. Yeah, I can see that. That's a nice touch. That's great. Yeah, but overall, I'm really loving it. I'm really I'm really loving the way the lightning's really getting that emotional intensity at the end there. It's really scary. Well done. Great. All right.
Yeah, can I say something
Yep, sure.
about this that I think could help? Um, since the weather is like raining, I think specularity could help a lot of with the shape of the monster, because when an object is wet,
Mm,
it tends to reflect a lot of light
yes.
from the surroundings. So it's a nice touch that the lighting of the buildings are there, and this warm light, is illuminating the monster. But maybe it's a change that is very difficult to do because it's almost a texture thing. But if we have some kind of bumps in the monster skin, we can reveal a lot of detail because it's wet, and specularity can shape the monster in a very interesting way, I think.
I feel like there actually is quite a bit of specularity
Specularity, yeah,
on the monster
yeah.
already,
I
and
can
it's
see
it
in that frame. Yes, there
it's
is.
it's
I
just
can
because
see
of
a lot.
the light levels there. We're we're kind of referencing this frame from uh, Godzilla. Let me try and pull it up, where it's quite. Um, it is actually quite. You know, you have the background being um, the brighter than the figure of the monster. So I guess the idea is that it's more about the silhouette, reading the silhouette of the monster as it's moving through the shot. So I guess
Okay, because if we,
that's what we're trying to kind of describe here, and
yeah.
I guess the idea of this kind of mystery of the monster, you don't really know, and it's actually okay that you don't read too much of him, and just at moments you just kind of reveal
Hmm.
this set of spikes, and it's fine that the rest of his figure can kind of recede. And then,
Yeah.
there are moments where, again, I was telling Theodora before that perhaps it might be good to remind the audience of the menace. So we want to just light up the horns, and it's okay that we don't read the monster at this point too well, and it's kind of mysterious, and it's more of a silhouette than anything else. We read the silhouette rather than the details on the skin at this point.
Yeah,
And then
I
it's only at the very end that we have this kind of reveal, and then that's when we understand that the the full detail, the gory detail of this monster. So that's kind of the intent here, lighting wise.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think
The intention is very different, right?
so.
I understand.
I think in that case, I feel that this is very successful.
I think every good monster movie builds on that like anticipation of there's a monster there somewhere. It's huge and you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that's true.
How long did Cloverfield wait before they showed you anything with it? Like you get an hour and 15 minutes, 20 minutes into that movie before you see any of the monster.
Exactly. Yeah.
A thing behind buildings that people run from. I love that part of it. I don't know.
That's part of
I
why
always enjoy that part.
I love the warm lights as it's creeping through the town in the beginning, because it almost looks like it blends in and could be part of the buildings.
Right? If it wasn't moving at all, you might mistake it for just another rooftop somewhere.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a ambiguity in the reading of it. All right, that's looking great. All right, so let's.
Yeah, I'll try an extra couple lightning hits in there to reveal it against the sky, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're in a good place after that. Cool. All right, so tell me, Theodora, tell me about this one.
She's in space doing science. So I wanted to play with a few different things here. I'm learning a new renderer. I wanted to get a scene together to light, and I wanted to kind of add action to basically a static scene without, like, it doesn't have animation in it like the monster one did, but I liked moving camera and being able to move, have motion and things happening in time. So this is actually doing a smash zoom into the window. So if you look in the first frame, like the background and the foreground very compressed, and you can only see a little bit of kind of that mountain background.
Yeah, what
And
kind of lens are you using right now? Is it like a 200 or something like that, like super?
So it's
long?
So it goes from 550 to 85 over the
550,
course
yep.
of 140 frames.
Yep.
And the feet move. There's nobody's feet in there, but it dollies inward at a rate to keep her the same size for the first 5 seconds.
Right.
But
Okay.
the reflection, and this is where it really shows up in motion, is the reflection. Just suddenly you start seeing wider and wider and wider into the scenery. And so it kind of starts out, who knows where she is, and then you see all this mountain scenery, and then it kind of reveals what's around her. There's science stuff, and then you pull, and then the zoom stops after about 140 frames, and the camera reverses. So instead of dollying in, it starts dollying back. So she rapidly kind of retreats into the distance, and then it cranes up, so you see the wide scene. So it's this kind of cool way of, you start focused on her, and then you rapidly get more and more of her surroundings in here. Because she has this look on her face, and with the arms crossed, she's having this frustrated, I told you so, we're screwed kind of moment. And so I kind of, liked this idea of, I focus on her, and then and then bring it rapidly out into like, here is this place far away from Earth where she's screwed on some other planet in some other place, or some, that kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it starts with her and kind of rapidly brings in this surrounding area, while
Right.
keeping her the same size for the first half of it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's one of those shots where we really need to see it in motion to get that. Um, I think,
I might have an early. Go ahead and I'm gonna look for a thing because I think I
yeah,
have an early take of it before the lighting changed and the background changed. Um,
yeah. So from what you describe, it sounds like it's a trombone shot to begin with, where we're kind of the camera's moving and you're changing focal length. So you're having there's this kind of weird
the
parallax.
vertigo zoom.
Yep. Yeah, the vertical zoom or the trombone shot, as I like to call it. Um,
Smashing.
so, and the idea of these shots is that they're supposed to give the audience a sense of disorientation, or that there's something up, or the character has come to some sort of realization that's kind of changed their perspective on things quite dramatically. Um, so yeah, it'd be good to see that in motion. Um, Lighting wise, I think it's looking really nice. I do feel like the ambient levels in the room are probably a little bit too high,
Yeah.
and it does start to compete with the lighting on the character. So you could probably go down on the ambient lighting in the lab there. Um, and I see you've like individually lit some of the like the microscope gets kind of its
So
own
it looked in
light.
it actually. There's a row of lights over. The idea was having kind of like workbench lights over top
Oh,
of there,
okay. Yep.
and it just happened to like land right
Land
in
on
that
the
spot.
microscope. Okay, gotcha.
I intended there to be other stuff back there, but then I ran into GPU memory issues of just trying to load too much.
Mm,
Um, so I abandoned adding other, there's going to be notebooks and books and test tubes and like
yep.
little blood vial tubes, that kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah, um, might help to kind of fill that bench a little bit more with sort of what you just mentioned, sort of testing um, instruments and measuring instruments and that sort of stuff, just to sell this idea that it's this kind of research lab. Um, the lighting on the woman is looking really nice, and I noticed that you mentioned that you have a sort of a purplish violet sort of element in the back there to as a kind of a pretext to get some of that purple light onto her. Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah. I needed to do something with the hair exactly, and I wanted to bring in that sort of the back angle. I started with the lower angle for the area lights that are on her cheeks. It was just bringing in way too much like under the chin, so then I
Mm.
raised the angle so that it would sculpt the face a little better.
Yeah, you definitely get you've got pretext for getting etching out the background um, and the figure of the woman there. So yeah, you should definitely you know lean into that. Um, I'd like to try maybe getting some more of this light onto the screen left side of her face, and with ambient the ambient going down, I think you could bring the fill side of her down as well. So yeah, fill side down. This kind of rim kicker key side up slightly. Let's say half stop. Go half stop down in the fill. Just to get, I feel like she needs a little bit more contrast, and especially as we're seeing her through the glass and we've got all these kind of reflections on top of her, you might want to exaggerate it, the contrast
Okay.
on her. Yeah. It's looking really great though, and I can see the complexity of the scene and appreciate the work that's gone into it. Those lights, those purple lights, are they, are they static,
So
or
they're
are they pulsating? Are they changing in exposure?
so they are static because I figured they're like greenhouse lights.
Yep.
See the reflection right over her shoulder there. That's the laptop that's in front of her, and then there's the screen that's on the workbench behind her. Those both are animated image sequences, so those both
Gotcha.
have motion to them.
Yep.
And then you've got the sort of all of the like the parallax motions happening of the different layers zooming and compressing at their various rates. So
Yep.
there's sort of when the whole thing is moving, it feels very fast. It feels like there's a lot of action happening to it.
Yep.
And so I didn't really feel the need to animate lights
Yep.
too much in the way of the if there's any animating of lights I'm going to do in the wide shot, when I get out to there, I'll probably put, like a pulsating warning light on top of the crane, right? Safety warning light type stuff's on the top of the buildings.
Right. Gotcha.
Right. So I'll have
Yep.
some like pulsating point lights out there that I'll probably just have them go kind of straight to camera without actually throwing a lot of light on the poly around them.
Yep.
But just so you have those blinkers,
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's it in terms of my comments. Be good to see. Are you able to control the reflections?
So it's just a straight up spec off glass. It's a reflection off glass.
Okay.
So I'm planning on having putting out an AOV that's of the reflection part so that I can add if needed. So I might render with less reflection than needed and then have an AOV to add more onto it if I need to.
Cool. Okay. Yep. Be good to see a study of different levels of that reflection onto her, I guess.
Well, and I have a sort of a second alternate. So I've been playing with the camera movement to get. I got it close, but there was like a part that felt kind of jerky in the movement, and so that's what I've been trying to tweak in the movement. But right now I have it where the camera, after it finishes the smash zoom, it immediately starts dollying back and then cranes up to see the base in the background. But if you go to the last before the wide shot there, you can see all these. Before the one that has the most clouds across the bottom of the window. That one.
Here? Yeah.
My thought has been actually, instead of doing that pull back and crane up, to basically cut and paste the whole base that's behind her except for the greenhouse stuff, and put that filling in where those clouds are so that it reveals the base in the reflection instead of doing that crane up. Just have it be a long smash in and take out the second camera motion.
Yeah. Could you try that? Do you have the capacity to try
I could
that
iterate.
as well?
I could iterate it. I think it's going to be a situation that like 960 by 540 is the most my computer will
Yeah,
handle that.
that's fine.
But yeah, I'd cloud render it later. But yeah, I
Yeah,
could try that. I could iterate it and drop the base in front of it and see if I can do a reveal that way. Because of course I have a second thing in my head. If I can learn to animate a landing spaceship, I can have her looking out the window pissed at whoever's landing in a spaceship that's late, and kind of have your like focus,
yep,
basically kind of kill the lights in her room in the
yep,
last few seconds, like
yep.
fade those out so that all you see is the reflection of the spaceship
Yes,
landing on its platform, that kind of a thing.
that
And then it
could
becomes a
be.
transition shot.
Yep, that could be really compelling. You should try that if you can.
All right, I'll give it a shot then.
Yeah, that'd be great. Looking forward to seeing.
I got time.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for that, Theodora.
All right, thank
All
you.
right. So who else we got on the chats? We have Alejandro.
Yeah, yeah.
So I see you've gone. You've taken another direction in terms of your lighting.
Yes.
So, and this is
Yes,
your reference.
uh, yeah, I wanted to do this monster lighting from below,
Yep.
as you mentioned a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. So tell me about this setup that you have.
Okay, I didn't want to just have this light from below and nothing else.
Okay.
And I mean, if I change the intention of light, I wanted to bring some other stuff in the scene. So I put this cemetery thing.
Yep.
And I like in my references that we have this fog in the background that is making this high contrast in the character. So I want to keep dark spots, but have some kind of lecture or reading, sorry, from what's the body and have some kind of volume. And then I think it's fake, but maybe it's an artistic decision that I can't tolerate right now. But this spot, white spot from the floor, is reflecting over the character. I don't have um, a light, practical light um, to make this kind of shapes of of the face.
What's
But I don't know. I didn't know how to make that. How is the word?
is this?
Mm,
Is this light? Is that?
yeah, that's light.
Is that? Is that inside his mouth? Is that? Is
Uh,
does he have a mouth? Okay.
no, no,
Actually,
no.
is that
For my
like?
surprise, yeah. For my surprise, that kind of mouth is a shadow. Uh, that the lighting was conveying on her face.
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time. Wait, so this area here,
Yeah.
that's not like an opening for a mouth, is it? Is it?
No, 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 no. The character doesn't have a mouth.
I see.
That's his highlight. That is the result of the light going from below.
Right. And is there a light coming up to hit him on the chin here, or
Yes.
there is? Yeah. So you've got um, like a very bright source from behind that's illuminating him here and
Hmm.
here and here. Is that light hitting the ground as well, or is that a separate light?
It's a separate light.
Right, so you've got a separate light here. And
Yeah,
then,
I try to emulate the bounce. It's not. I didn't
gotcha.
like how the that light reflect on the character, so
Hmm.
I rim separately.
I see. So you've probably got like another light here as a rim,
Yeah.
maybe some secondaries here, and possibly something on this side, because I feel like this side's probably getting receiving a bit more light.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like is he laughing? It looks I can't get past this kind of reading of this shape here. I'm guessing it's just the shape of his face,
Yes.
but it
Uh,
looks to me that he's laughing and there's this kind of light source inside his mouth.
okay, I understand. Yeah, maybe because we don't have some texture in it
Mm,
to feel the shape. I
right.
don't know.
I don't have issue with that. That's just the way it is. Um, so I mean, in terms of like uh, etching out his detail, obviously it's he's reading as a kind of a silhouette, and you've like lit him from behind, and so
Mm-hmm.
we can understand the his form and his his pose quite well from that one light. So um, you know that's quite successful. Um, it does feel, apart from these kind of moments here, it does read quite flat, and there's a kind of a 2D kind of reading of his face here, basically because it's very hard for me to kind of understand what's happening with this light here.
Mm-hmm.
So um, so that's, for me, that's tripping me up. Otherwise, you know, these rim lights describe his shoes quite well, and um, yeah, I guess there's really not that much to say about, apart from uh, the reading of it does is akin to a, I guess, a low key kind of reading.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been successful in that, but sort of, I guess, the emotional resonance of it for me is kind of confused. I don't know whether it's a comedic, like a funny scene because the
Mm-hmm.
shape of his mouth, or whether it's
Yeah.
a like a scary scene. So that's kind of, for me, that's a confused reading.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think I have to dim the light in that is confusing or is conveying a mouth shape in a way?
I think you should maybe just try turning it off, see what you
Oh,
get.
taking. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And about this shaping, that you feel like the head is really flat. And what about the body? Do you think that I need more dark spots to make that more volume on the character, or
Um, I think the reading of a light behind a character, it would be a silhouette. So I don't know whether I
Mhm,
changed any of that stuff, but
mhm,
it's just the light that you have here that I think
mm,
you could just turn it off, and
okay,
I think the reading won't be as confused if you just turn that
okay,
off. Yep.
mhm,
Alrighty.
yeah, I understand.
All
Mhm.
right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, John, you're next. So tell me about
Yes.
your progress since the last iteration.
Okay. Um. Well, I added back in that section of wall that was missing at the bottom, if you remember.
I do,
I
yes.
turned.
This thing here
Yeah.
that was kind of giving off the light. Yep. Yep.
I removed a lot of the lights. So
Yep.
at this point,
Yep.
there's really just um, a bounce up light from inside the pool,
Yep.
the spotlight for the flashlight, a point light for the like the source point, the area light for the glow of the campfire, and the sky dome light, which I turned down a lot.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I can see now that um, you want to focus the attention of the viewer onto those spheres. So dimming the lights definitely works to do that. So that's been really successful. And the objects in the foreground, to be honest, um, they weren't that interesting. So
Mm,
I'm kind of glad that you turned the lights down on them, and they
yeah.
become these kind of mysterious objects rather than when you turn them up, they're quite banal. They're sort of these it's like a desk chair and
Yeah, in a backpack.
a backpack, and so by turning down the lights, they become these kind of mysterious objects, and they read,
Mm,
and they don't serve to distract from the really interesting aspects or the objects in the scene, um, which are the spherical objects in the pool. So I think that you've been really successful in that. Um, so,
thank you. I also noticed that the snow that was on the original asset
mm,
of the spheres was taking away from the ability to create that specular rim light.
okay,
So I just rotated the sphere, so
yep,
the snow is now on the other side.
cool, yeah, yep, yeah, whatever works, man. It's your scene. Um, I guess one thing that I'd like to comment that I should have earlier is the
Mm,
camera composition of the scene. It does feel like
yeah.
it's a little bit imbalanced. Now I'll just have a
Mm,
quick go at doing a crop for you. I'm just thinking that it feels, now that we know that we want to focus the attention onto the spheres, we want to give uh, more focus, or we want the camera sort of pointed more towards the spheres rather than the objects in the foreground. Rather than the backpack and the desk chair. So how about we try something like this? This is super rough, where
mm,
you know we kind of focus in more on the spheres rather than the foreground objects. I think that'd be your next task. And is there a reason why the highlights have got this kind of width to them? Is that just the light that's reflecting,
Oh,
or is there
yeah,
a
there's
gap? Is there a gap in the ceiling or something?
no. I did add a long, thin area light around the edge to create more of a um, distinction between the spheres in the background.
Gotcha.
So it might be a bit strong. And it didn't occur to me that you could tell the width of the spotlight. I thought that might just be a reflection of the flashlight.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah. See what you get when you remove those reflections. It'd be good just to read, you know, just the edge there lit up,
Mm.
rather than this kind of like thickish edge. So try that. And I really like the light coming from the pool. That's really atmospheric, and that's working really well. I'm wondering whether you
Yeah,
could,
I thought I
you know what?
softened that quite a bit because I
Yep,
noticed that it was lighting up the fill side of
yep.
the spheres a little bit too much.
Okay. Yeah. The softening definitely works. Um, is there? Do you have some atmosphere there, kind of coming across?
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether you could back off on the atmosphere on the spheres. So try
Okay.
backing off the atmo on the spheres and maybe bring that down and maybe bring up the atmosphere behind it.
Okay.
Just so we can separate the spheres from the rest of the background there. I'm really liking these really subtle hits onto these objects. You know, these are working really well.
Okay. I was actually going to ask if you think it might benefit the scene to just remove those foreground elements entirely.
I quite like them now. you kind of you can't really make them out, and they're kind of
Okay.
these mysterious kind of objects. I don't mind them now that you can't really make them out too much. So I mean, you could try removing it, but I think it would make the scene quite empty looking compositionally,
Okay.
and
And
I really like the fact that they kind of come over the spheres in the foreground
yeah,
here. You know,
yeah, I was thinking the pool noodles were in the corner of the scene, just um, off camera.
yep,
And when I brought them in, I realized they were kind of an innocuous uh, juxtaposition to the similar kind of shape, but something much more menacing looking behind it.
yes, yep. That is a nice contrast. You have these kind of these kind of fingers in the foreground, and then behind it, you do have these quite menacing sort of metallic objects, soft and you've got soft and squishy in the foreground and sort of chromy and menacing behind it. So that is, yep. What you've done is you've built some tension there visually. So I think that's working really well, and that's what we want in a scene. We want some visual tension. So that's a good call.
And my intention with the campfire was that the warmth of that light would kind of complement the coolness of the rest of the room to create a balance. But what do you think about that as kind of an anchor in the bottom left corner?
Yeah, again, it's a nice contrast. It's a the light's warm. You have these kind of familiar kind of. It does read as a campfire, and that's fine. I think it's fine where it is. It does add to the tension in the scene because you do anticipate something happening around the campfire, and there's like you said, this kind of juxtaposition of readings. So I think it's fine.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Yeah. So so maybe work on the camera, the camera blocking of the objects, and maybe give less to the foreground and more to the spheres in terms of focus and emphasis. And
Yeah, I've
then,
struggled a little bit with setting the camera just because the like motor aspect of when I just try to pivot a little bit, it either does it too much or not enough. So, and that's
oh,
really the only way I know how to manipulate the camera is by looking through it and
yes.
then adjusting it that way.
What are
Can
you
I
in
throw out
Maya?
my advice?
Are you in Maya or
I am in Maya.
right?
If you're doing something really finicky with camera, just get in and type instead of doing the dragging. Like when you select the camera, you know how you've got your tabs over on your right with your attribute editor, and you've got
Oh
the camera
yeah.
shape.
Okay.
Then to the left of that, you've got your translate, rotate, etc. Just get in and
Yeah.
type if you need to get like really precise with it.
That's a great point and it didn't occur to me. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
that's
problem.
yeah, definitely type it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
don't.
you're gonna want to get familiar with that window anyway to set keys to move things and yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that'll definitely work. Yeah, I don't trust myself to move the camera manually, so I'm always typing translations and rotations in. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've done a lot of live action work, so my thought was like, okay, I'll like hold the camera and move it, but that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
So actually, when I was doing the smash zoom, I found myself initially, I did the zoom from like a practical, like this is a parfocal zoom lens that you can rent, kind of a zoom range. And then I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, I'm in a computer. I don't have to worry about like how good is the first AC. Let's, do a longer zoom than just exists in the real world. And so though that's kind of
Yeah.
how it, right? That's how it turned into let's start at 550 millimeters and go all the way in. Because at first I started at I think it was 200 or 300. I was doing like a 200 to 24, and now it's a 550 to 85. I found a folder of EXRs from that older render, and I just kind of rendered out the initial motion test shot and put it in the live lighting critique thread.
cool.
So yeah, that was the motion test is in the thread now.
Cool.
But it's missing a lot. It's missing a lot of stuff, and it's that one starts at like 300 millimeters instead of 550. so it's not quite as dramatic a smash zoom. I ended up backing the camera up further and then resizing the sort of the reflection plate so that it would still kind of have the same initial starting point with the mountain. But the lighting is different. It's missing the base behind it and stuff. But there's a bumpy spot or two in trying to in kind of the transition between the smash zoom and the crane.
Mm.
And so that's the part I've been trying to work out, is how to smooth up that kind of the moment where you can feel where the camera motion changes.
Are you able to access like the camera graph where you get a graph of
Yeah, I've been
X and
working on
Y,
it in the graph.
X and Y? Okay, good.
The trick of it is that it's basically the camera itself physically moves forward, and then I have to suddenly have it start moving the opposite direction and feel like that never happened at all.
Right.
Right. It's the goal is to make one. And so you can feel there's kind of that two bumps as it starts to crane up there.
Yep.
Bump one, bump two, bump three. So that little bump, bump, bump thing is what I'm trying to smooth out.
Okay. But you do have access to the graph.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's just a matter of noodling with the graph.
Yep, lots of graph noodling. There might be a little math involved at some point if I really want to nail it.
Yeah. I thought that trombone shot would be the trombone effect would be more
Yeah, it's more drastic in the current take
intense.
of it. This is my first test.
Okay.
So this one's going like 200 millimeter to 50 millimeter, I think.
Yep.
And then the later one goes like 550
Ah, right.
millimeter,
Okay.
200, right? So the trombone gets twice as drastic in the kind of the new version. Also, the new version's slower. This one's 7 seconds. Now I'm doing it in 180 frames. So
Cool.
yeah, or 240. I forget what I changed. I changed it, but yeah.
No, I think it's going to be great. Cool.
Yeah, it'll just be the decision between, do I want to do the crane up or do I want to do the just reveal in the reflection, which I'm going to try that out. Anyway.
All right. So let's move on to Marie's monster shot. So Marie, I've got 3 frames here. I've got kind of an initial frame, middle and end, and some reference shots. It's looking great. I see that you've taken particular care to really describe and bring attention to those horns and spikes. So that's really a really nice aspect of your shot. So you really read those and you get this sense of menace and, kind of terror, I guess, from the monster coming at you. And so it's a mixture of warmish, like a warm light coming from screen left, or a few lights coming from screen left, and then you've got your cool rim coming from sort of top screen right. So that's working really well. The thing I really love about this frame is the level of atmosphere that you've got onto the monster and behind the buildings. I just feel like it just adds this other level of depth to your shot, and given that your foreground is quite stark and contrasty, it really does separate the environment from the character, at least the foreground. environment from the character. So I think that's really successful. And then the read on the monster's face is working really well here, where you've got, you know, more of that bluish light. I don't know whether you've got an extra cool light coming from the side here or whether it's the same light coming from top, but that's really etching out some nice detail on the face there. So we can see from this kind of middle, midway through the shot, that the warm light is washing over most of the screen left side here. I'm wondering whether it does feel a little bit too lifted. I feel like it is competing with this really kind of very dramatic, cool lighting here. I'm wondering whether you could possibly bring it down. Let's see whether this is working. So maybe bringing it down where it's kind of hitting his body. I actually don't mind it up here where it's kind of describing the spikes and horns. I'm wondering whether it just needs to come down, you know, here. I think maybe overall you could probably go down some more. Yes, something like that would be, I think, a little bit more menacing, a little bit more mysterious. Again, we kind of don't want to reveal the monster in its entirety, because we want to leave, you know, a lot of what makes things scary is that it leaves a little bit to your imagination to kind of make up the detail. So I think the less we kind of describe the monster in terms of lighting, the kind of scarier we can make it. And then the final frame. Again, I mean, it looks great the way the details really coming across on his screen right there. Like I just love all that, you know, all that spec detail that we're getting from this cool rim light in the back. That's great. I'm wondering though whether it does feel like we're kind of taking away from that with this kind of warm light coming from screen left. I wonder whether we do, again, just keep it quite just bring that down. So the things that we want to read about this really scary creature that you've lit is the menace, the teeth. You know, you've managed to kind of get the eye etched out, and the horns here, his arm. I think that's where it's really scary. Maybe if you can, maybe etch out this horn here, but again, it's probably not necessary. But try and bring those out, and then have the rest of his body a little bit, I guess, just let it recede and not fully describe it. I think that's enough. Alrighty, but I'm really loving your shot. It looks amazing. So yeah, keep going with it. All right. So we've done John, Marie, Theodora. We've done Alejandro, Michal. So I'm probably mangling your name. I apologize. So we have 2 reference images here, and if I understand correctly, this image here is kind of the reverse angle for your render. So you have more of a front-on or top-down light on your subject, and it's a warm light, and you've got these sort of warm sort of incandescent bulbs strung up behind her and in front of her. So it's a very sort of even wash over your figure, and the second reference shot has some cooler light, which is in the background, and I see you've got some of it there. I mean, overall, like, I think you're very close. The lighting is, obviously, it's a very festive scene. We're at some sort of night market or something like that, and it's the lighting does match with, I guess, the scene and thematically what's happening. So I think you're successful there. My only comment would be trying to somehow play that cooler light onto her. And obviously the contrivance that you have at your disposal is this kind of cool light, this blue light here, that perhaps can affect her as a sort of a coolish rim light. And that can serve to separate her from the background. But I see that you've used some kind of lens that is giving quite a bit of defocus. So again, you don't need to really etch her out from the background too much. The lens is kind of doing that for you, but perhaps in the interests of some variation in color temperature and complexity of the lighting, you could try getting some of that blue light onto her. Yeah, the faces, I would say the face is lit really well, quite fully describes her features. And the highlight, nice broad highlight, is is working for me. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this one. Thank you. And then I think lastly we have MHD Hiron. Again, apologize for mangling your name if I haven't said it correctly. So we have a reference here of an alleyway scene, some late afternoon golden light hitting the screen left wall. You've translated that reference really well in this scene. I feel like the sunlight in the foreground could probably go up. I think you could bring it up. And then to make it feel more photographic, I would definitely work on the midtones here. You know, take down the fill in these areas here. Similar to the fill levels here, I would see what you get if you just brought this down. Again, I'm probably gone too far in both bringing the key up and the fill down, but I think you know what I mean. I really love that quality that you have in the lighting here, that blooming. I'm wondering whether is that in camera or was that a post effect that you got? I'm not sure what rendering engine you're using, whether you can get those kind of blooms straight out of the box. But it's looking really nice and it's very evocative. So, yep, keep going with tuning the fill and the key levels in the front, in the foreground here. And yep, you're in a good place. All right, I think that is it for today. Do we have anyone who just came that I haven't spoken to? No, everyone's here. Yep, so that's it. Well done, guys. That's I can tell that's been a lot of work for all of you guys, and I appreciate that. And appreciate the hard work. It's a luxury for me to just kind of rock up and just make comments on the scene, and I do appreciate as a lighter the work that kind of goes into it, and the trial and error that goes into it as well, and the experimentation. That's all part of the process. But
Learning what crashes Maya.
yes.
Don't click that button. Just don't click that button.
Yes, and save often.
Yes.
Yeah. Opening
Yeah.
Maya on a computer crashes it.
Yes.
I went back to 2024 because 2025 just I can't.
Yeah, I haven't used Maya that much lately, but yeah, I do remember those crashes. Yep, for sure. All right, so that's it for me for this month. So thanks again for all your hard work and showing me what you've been up to. It's always really inspiring to see the work. So thank you, and
Thank you, Quan.
you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
thank you.
Cheers. And yeah, I look forward to seeing updates for your work.
For sure.
For
It looks
sure.
like you'll be back in October.
Yes, I'll be back in October. So, yep, definitely. I'd love to see some more of your work when I come back.
We'll see you in a few months.
Alrighty, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you
Thanks.
later.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.